Alright, what's up guys? Today's Twisted Track List is going to be a little bit different because I actually did not make the track list today. The artist himself did. I am going over the Autobiography as told by Vic Mensa. I don't really know where to begin with this album. This album is a phenomenal album, very underrated. I really recommend it to anyone that has not listened to it, and the best part is, I know that I like to talk a lot about rap records. This rap record is very different, and it's notable because he kind of infuses light rock with the rap, and it is really just different and amazing. But Vic did post something, I want to say it was on Instagram or one of his social media accounts, that caught my attention once, which was, it looked like the original track list that was to be put on the back. And, like, all these songs were basically just completely out of order. I mean, not entirely, but there was definitely a different flow of the songs, and you could tell that he did it based off of the conceptualism. I'm assuming that's a word. If it's not a word, it is now. And so I took it upon myself to put the songs the way that he once intended for you to hear them on Spotify. Once again, the link will be in the description. But without further ado, here I go. I will go over them. My phone just shut off right before I went to talk. Alright, once again, without further ado, this time without actual further ado. So the order he has them in, he has the first three songs remaining the same. I love that every time that I do a Twisted Track List, it seems like the first three songs, or at 4 or 5 at least, typically remain the same. I think it's because the artist really does intend for the beginning of an album to sound like the beginning of an album, and they make it as if it is the beginning of the album, you know, and I do think that it is something that, like, you know, it shows because it bleeds whenever someone tries to screw with the track list. You know, even ones that I've seen other people touch, and even in this case, something that he touched a long time ago before coming up with the finalized track list, you know. So the first three songs, Say I Didn't, Memory is on 47th Street, and Rollin' Like a Stoner, all remain the same. But then instead of Home Wrecker, he goes to Heaven on Earth, which, by the way, is a beautiful song. It's about his friend that died, and it's written kind of like Stand By Eminem is written. The first verse is Vic to the friend, the second verse is the friend to Vic, and the third verse is the person that killed the friend to Vic. And it really is a great song. I really do recommend that one. That is one of my favorite songs on this album. And then he goes into Down for Some Ignorance, which is definitely probably the banger of the album. Great bass if you are in your car or your truck and you need a really good bass song. I highly recommend that one. And then he goes into Coffee and Cigarettes. Once again, a really great song. I actually made a video for it probably 2 years back. You know, that one, the lyrics just really spoke to me and who I was with at the time, and we made a video, and it was, you know, it got some decent reviews. I thought it was pretty decent actually for, you know, a lot of the stuff we were putting out around then. It was definitely one of the things that stood out, you know. It's a project that I'm kind of proud of. But anyway, Coffee and Cigarettes, and then he went to Home Wrecker and Gorgeous, which were initially the 4th and 5th track on the album. So basically what he did was he took tracks 6 through 9. He also got rid of an interlude, so I'm not doing math wrong. He got rid of an interlude on this reorder. I'm assuming he didn't have it recorded at the time. So he got rid of tracks 6 through 9. I mean, he took track 6, okay, I'll say it this way. He took tracks 6, 8, and 9, and he moved them up to 4, 5, and 6. And then he took tracks 4 and 5, and he made them 7 and 8. Home Wrecker and Gorgeous. So instead of occurring at the 4th and 5th placement on the album, they occur at the, what did I just say, 7th and 8th, I believe, after Coffee and Cigarettes, which kind of caps Coffee and Cigarettes off because that is about his relationship, and then Home Wrecker and Gorgeous kind of also touch on aspects of the relationship. So I see why he did that. It conceptualized the album more, which kudos to him. That was, you know, that's something that I'm constantly complaining about in terms of albums. Give me a minute though and I'll kind of explain why I don't think it works so well in this case. I am actually very happy that he went with the original track list, but I'm getting ahead of myself. He then goes to Wings and he gets rid of another interlude, and he goes to The Fire Next Time, We Could Be Free, and Rage. And OMG does not appear on this version, which kind of upsets me because OMG is a great song. That's one of my favorite Vic Mensa songs. It is another really good banger with one of Pusha T's best verses in 2017, I want to say it came out in. Wings, The Fire Next Time, We Could Be Free, and Rage, those all basically remain the same, so nothing to touch on there. So, with all that said, I suppose I can discuss that track list and explain to you why I prefer the original track list. I prefer the original track list because Homewrecker and Gorgeous fit really well after Rolling Like a Stoner, because the first 3 songs are very much him talking about his childhood, and in the 4th and 5th song he's kind of, the way I hear it at least, he's kind of talking about how the childhood he had affected the relationships that he would eventually have, which I thought was a really great touch, especially because the album is called The Autobiography. And then he goes into Heaven on Earth, which does, I will admit, seem a little bit out of place after a song like Gorgeous, but it flows really well. And I'm constantly criticizing the conceptualization of albums or the lack thereof, but in this, for the case of this album, I think it just works really well. I think they did a really good job making each track kind of flow into each other. Even with the track list that he put out before this, the one that I just went over, it still flowed really well, and it did definitely have better conceptualizations, but it just, to me, it just didn't hit the mark as much as the original track list. After Heaven on Earth, he goes into Cardcracker, which is the skit that he got rid of. I said interlude before, it's actually a skit. That is my bad. And then he goes into Down for Some Ignorance, which is the one that I was saying, it sounds great on bass, and it does. And the skit really does a good job of bringing Heaven on Earth to Down for Some Ignorance, because they are 2 completely different songs, and it does a really good job of segueing into that concept. Another thing about Down for Some Ignorance, I love the fact that they have parentheses after that title and they wrote Ghetto Lullaby, because with him signing to Jay-Z, that reminds me so much of Hard Knock Life, in parentheses, Ghetto Anthem. That's a great touch. Coffee and Cigarettes is your 9th track, I believe. Oh, I see. This is vinyl. The track on the side C. That screwed me up. Yeah, so that's the 9th track overall, and I think that it fits better there. Well, he didn't really rearrange that one, but I think that song works better on its own without Homewrecker and Gorgeous, because in this version you kind of have Homewrecker and Gorgeous giving you some insight to the relationship, and then you go to Coffee and Cigarettes where he kind of discusses it as a whole, which is one thing that didn't make sense to me. Even though it helped the conceptualization, it makes more sense for Coffee and Cigarettes to be the last song, especially considering the ending, because at the end of that song, this is kind of a fun fact, he actually says Natalie, who is the girlfriend that he's talking about, he actually says, Natalie, I will love you forever, or something along those lines, and he put it in reverse. I thought that was really cool for him to do. And then you go into, I believe it's Wings, and it is. It's a little hard to read this upside down, so I'm going to flip it around now for my sake. Then you go to Wings. Wings is a great song. Once again, it fits perfectly there. That's very much so a song about him conquering all of his problems and, you know, coming to the terms with the fact that he's not perfect, but he's doing his best. Then you have the Heaven on Earth reprise. I call it an interlude. Once again, I screwed up. It is actually a reprise, which I see why he didn't have it on the original track list, but it is kind of a nice little reprise written in the album, especially because it leads into The Fire Next Time, which is one of the great songs on this album, one of the many great songs on this album. Perfect to a T. And after The Fire Next Time, you have We Could Be Free, which is slower, but, you know, in the order that the album is in, I can usually get through that whole song because of the fact that it's where it's at. And then you have Rage, the bonus track. OMG is on the distribution, how do I say this? OMG is on the music streaming services, but it is not on the CD or the vinyl, which really sucks because, once again, that is one of my favorite songs. So I do think that this version has a better track list. I do think that it flows a bit better, but I do see why he had the other track list. And if I had to recommend one for you guys to listen to, I would say try this one over the other one. But once again, I will put the link for the new track list. Well, not new. I would assume original track list in the description. Oh, I said this in the last one, which I don't know if it'll release as the last one or if it will release later, because I don't want to give you guys an overabundance of Eminem albums that I discuss. So I might release these out of order. But I did say that I was going to try and start saying my favorite songs on the album, so I am going to do that. Rollin' Like a Stoner is a great song, very catchy. I really like the beat to Rollin' Like a Stoner, and I really like the second verse. The second verse he has a great flow on. Homewrecker and Gorgeous are both really good songs. Weezer fits into Homewrecker so perfectly, and that's what I was saying. Like, nobody would expect Weezer in a billion years to ever really be on a rap record, but he's on this one. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at. This album is so supremely different to anything that you guys are probably used to me discussing, so I really recommend this one. Heaven on Earth, like, I'm not even joking. I'm basically just reading down the list at this point on my favorite songs on this album. Heaven on Earth is a great song. It really hits hard in terms of, you know, you can relate to it if you lost someone. I relate to it a little bit, not fully, but you know, it kind of it sits well with you if you've lost someone. Coffee and Cigarettes is another really good song on the album. I would say probably, once again, one of my favorites. The Fire Next Time is not necessarily one of my favorites, but it is a great, great song on the album. Rage is probably, at the end of the day, my favorite song on this album. Rage is a really good song. It's like 5 minutes, and the last verse, once again, is just phenomenal. I love how he starts off the song by singing. It makes it a perfect like rock rap mix. And if you guys like Beyonce said that she approves of Rage, so check out Rage. And it's not on the vinyl, but it is on the music streaming services. OMG, as I said earlier, is a great song with a really good Pusha T verse. All in all, this whole album is great. It is definitely up there for my favorite albums from 2017. And I love the artwork. I just want to point that out. There's so much hidden symbolism in the artwork. You know, you have, up here you have Save Money, Still Alive, R.I.P. Dare, which is his friend that he talks about in Heaven on Earth. You got all this stuff. In the mirror, he's got devil horns. In the real world, he does not have devil horns. He's not wearing shoes, which was something that a friend of the photographer suggested to him because she said that without shoes, you are more real or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact phrase that she used. You got all the, this whole scene is from the song Homewrecker, where the table gets flipped over by the mad girlfriend, and I love it because, it's literally showing that in the moment of everything that he discusses on this album, he was basically writing the album while it happened, and to me, in my eyes, that is a great touch. So once again, great album. I would definitely give this one probably a 9 out of 10, and I suggest you guys listen to the original version, not the twisted track list. And I really hope you do, because I really do think that you guys will be surprised with this one. And that's all. Have a good one.